Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. Part of this talk I'm excited about is, I know a lot about your system. If anybody's watched or heard the podcast at all over the years, I talk about it quite a bit. I've got all the books, Road to 138, the ones that your dad actually sent me about the system and like the little thin ones. And so I've gone through all that and enjoyed the talk with him, but I'm excited to talk with you kind of about your brand of the style and how it has changed and how you're running the program, because so many people know your dad and have watched his clinics and everything. But I don't know. I think to me, it's really fun to see you played in it. You've been there for like, golly, that school has just been a part of you probably, for as long as you can remember. So anyway, just thrilled to get to have you on.
Yeah, no, I certainly think like my time as a player, playing for my old man, a lot of people, of course, wanted to ask how was that? It was great, except for about once a month, like maybe most father-son combinations. Once a month, we probably just had to be separated, and if it was during the season, he might just send the entire team home because he just knew we both knew the direction that it was headed was not going to be productive. But other than that, my dad and I are honestly best friends. Like, he was the best man at my wedding. We live right now 4 houses apart. My mom
that's cool.
4 houses down from my wife and I. And so, they're babysitting my 3 kids on a very, very frequent weekly basis. And, so getting to play in it, getting to learn from him, was incredible. And I try not to give him too much credit, because I do not think anybody in their right mind, if you were taking 50 or 60 3-point shot attempts per game back in the early 90s, could have projected the direction that basketball was going, but he was ahead of the curve, whether it was by luck or by plan, probably by luck, but he was ahead of the curve. And now as we get like into the year 2023, where if you're not taking a ton of threes, now you're the crazy one, and I think that it presents like a unique set of challenges for us, because we're not quite as different offensively relative to our opponents as what we were back in the 90s, or even 10 years ago. And those challenges, like other teams now, since they're taking so many threes themselves, that they're also defending other teams that are taking threes. They just schematically, players on the court can do different things now. More big guys can shoot threes, and more big guys can handle the ball a little bit. And so our pressure defense might have to change a little bit. So certainly there are just some changes in the way that basketball has evolved. I'm excited about the challenge and trying to stay ahead of the curve and trying to push the envelope as it relates to creativity. But it's certainly changing and making things more difficult.
Man, that's such a great point, because your dad even made that comment, I think, about how for a couple decades you were really unique and really special. Like when other teams played you, it was something that they'd really never done before, or they rarely did. And so you had that little bit of an advantage. But now, to your point, if a coach isn't having high expectations for 3-point usage, if their scheme doesn't lead to that, then man, they're kind of behind, right? So I guess the first question is like your favorite style of play to teach. And unless you say it's not the Grinnell style and it's something, then okay, we can go that. But assuming it's that, and if it's not, correct me, to your last point, 2023, what does the system look like now under you, knowing the changes in basketball, where you've got NBA and college players, when they get inside the arc in their space, taking steps back to get back outside to shoot? Like, where is it now for you?
Yeah, so the Grinnell style, the Grinnell system is definitely my favorite brand of basketball to teach. But the thing, there are so many different like variations of the Grinnell system, and I always like if somebody, we get a number of calls a lot of times from high school programs that are looking to maximize player participation about wanting to go to this style. And one of the first things that I try to tell them is that like you're going to have to, you can take some of the principles that we use, but you're going to have to make it your own, because whether it's the length of the game or the length of a 3-point shot or the rules of the game or the opponents or the style of play in your area, like to just take the Grinnell system as we ran it this last year or whenever and say, hey, that's exactly what we're going to do is it could be an okay place to start, but there's no doubt you're going to have to make tweaks to it, and we're making tweaks here on a yearly basis, or trying to. It used to be that teams that we played against, the opposing coach would tell their guys, you are not taking any 3-point shots. We are passing the ball around until we get a layup against this silly press, and now teams are just hoisting threes.
Now they're like, this is great. This is what we want to do all the time. Right.
And so it's left me sitting there thinking like, well, the pace is going up and down, but it's not 3 is greater than 2. It's not really what I'm familiar with. And so how do we have to adjust what we're doing to either try to stop teams from taking threes or force certain shot? If I'm kind of resigned to the fact now, if teams really want to try to take threes against us, they're probably going to be able to do it,
or else there's no organization, no discipline, and you're going to beat teams like that anyway. But you're right. Assuming that their coach has a plan and their players are skilled enough to execute that plan, it might be a tough night.
It really could be, and we've played some teams that have kind of tried to lead the way in terms of taking a lot of threes against us. It's worked on some nights. It's worked better for us on some nights, just like a lot of things in basketball. But, when I say to people that are thinking about going this route, like, hey, the Grinnell system, parts of it could be good, but you're going to have to evolve. That's exactly what I went through when I went to the D League, now G League. Like I went out there and I was like, hey, the brand of basketball that I know is the Grinnell system. I'm going to start with that, but chances are we're going to have to adapt and adjust. There's a 24-second shot clock. I only have a 10-man rotation or 10 guys on the roster. The game's just called a little bit differently. Guards are a little bit quicker. Big guys can finish above the rim a little bit more than they could at Grinnell. And so I think there's always like just this constant adjustment process that is going to go into the Grinnell system while still maintaining some of those core principles, and our core principles that we still have, that we've had really for forever, have been 5-for-5 substitutions. That we are going to rotate groups of 5 onto the floor, and we are going to try to wear down the other team. And, another principle that we've had has just been that we are just going to play as hard as we possibly can. We are going to sprint the floor as hard as we can in both directions. We're going to crash the offensive glass. We are going to try to just, again, wear the other team down, and obviously our constant full court pressure is still a staple, where we're double teaming the basketball wherever it goes, not letting another team run a set play for the duration of the game. Maybe at the end of the game, if we have enough points to win, we would kind of pack it in and go the other route. But and then also just playing with the 12-second shot clock. That is still a staple. We want to create a shot in 12 seconds, variety of ways to be able to do that. But with those kind of core tenets, there are so many different variations that you can go to get those 4 core tenets.
And a couple of great nuggets there. One, I think a reminder for any coach that it's, the springtime or summer, whatever time of the year, but you're looking at maybe implementing or making a change. There are so many great systems. I happen to love yours, but to your point, like any coach listening, you can take bits and pieces, but then make sure that it fits your personnel, the administration that you have, the families, the system, the league. Because I wonder how many times guys like look at your style and say, I'm going to read a book. I'm going to do exactly that. but then they don't take into account there's some variations that they need to see, and maybe they're blinded by just trying to stick to a path. I think that's the art of finding a system like yours, but then also making it your own and making it work the best for your players.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, I want my team to play right now like the Denver Nuggets, but I don't have the Joker, and so it's going to be a little bit.
There's only one of him.
It's not going to work the same. If they got the best passing big man of all time, and I think that can be true about any style that you're running, that there can be bits and pieces that you want to take, and maybe it fits perfectly, or maybe you even have to start someplace where you say, hey, you know what? I just want to see what it looks like running an exact copycat version of something, which I think is a good thing. I don't use the term copycat as a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. That's how we learn and grow. But being willing to adjust kind of on the fly is so important in coaching, so important in life. And just not being so stuck in, hey, this is how we have to do it, but adapting to players and adapting to personnel that you might have.
The second thing I wanted to talk is because I watched, A Guru of Go is one of my favorite 30 for 30s with Paul Westhead, and to watch him take his system and try to go to the NBA. I think with the Nuggets back in the day, they were averaging like 140 or 50, but they're giving up like 160. It didn't really have. I mean, obviously, and I think your dad said it made me really laugh. He was like, in his books or even the podcast, he said, early on, it was just, we need to do something different. He said, I never thought we could win with it. But that started happening. In your experience with taking it to the G League, how did those guys respond? How did they take the subbing? At what point did you feel like you had to start making adjustments?
They responded at various levels of like both comfort and belief. And, it was also hard because I didn't have like professional playing experience, certainly not in the NBA. It was my first time coaching professional basketball, and I was close to I had a couple guys on the team that were older than I was at the time. And so, getting them to try to buy into that, was certainly challenging. I recall, I think it was either a first or second game, and Hassan Whiteside had like 30 points, 22 boards, and 8 block shots against us, just at the back of the press, just catching lobs and just flushing it home, and we lost. And I just remember thinking like, what just happened out there, I tried to stick with it through most like halfway through the first year. Truth be told, I should have been fired after my first year, probably, if you look at the wins and losses. And we went 20 and 30, and we gave up a ton of points. We averaged like 133 or something like that,
which is awesome.
And what I realized was, at the point in time where I was used to seeing the other team get tired, we were actually the ones getting tired. 12-minute quarters, a lot of travel, only a 10-man rotation. One guy steps on a
great athletes too. Like, they're literally great athletes, Yeah.
One guy steps on a foot and rolls an ankle, and all of a sudden he's out, and you can't even sub 5 for 5 anymore, And so, I started kind of mixing and matching midway through the first year. When they picked up my option, I knew that we were going to have to make some changes again just to fit. I knew that I still wanted to lead the league in pace and points scored, which we did in year 2. I just thought that we maybe had to be more selective with our pressing. We had to be adjust the rotation a little bit. I had to use timeouts or the media timeouts to my advantage a little bit more, just to, again, using the rules of the game to your advantage.
Yeah. Is pressing, this is one thing I always felt, is pressing worth it if it's only creating the pace that you want? Or is it worth it when it, because obviously it creates pace, but it's creating live ball turnovers that give you more of an, because I didn't mind it when they would come down and just kick it out of bounds or throw it out of bounds. That happened. But then, they're also setting up. I didn't see it create enough live ball turnovers. I thought, okay, this is worth the effort that we're having to give on that side.
Yeah. I would generally agree. Like you need to be able to force the turnovers. I think I'm not entirely sure what percentage of those would need to be live ball turnovers.
Yeah.
There are benefits to just creating the pace. I felt like our, I guess in a way, half court offense in the D League had the highest efficiency. And it's not because we were playing half court offense. It's just, again, based on how they counted it. They counted it like after a made basket. I was saying we need to create a transition opportunity after a made basket, though by technicality, I think a transition opportunity actually, I don't know if it can or can't come after a made basket. You know what I mean? So we're saying, like, you think of a transition opportunity, and conventional wisdom would be saying, well, that's a turnover, right? Or that's a missed shot defensive rebound where you're going and you have a numbers advantage. I like to say, you know what, our offense can be even better if we can create transition opportunities after the other team scores. And we can create a numbers advantage after the other team scores, which is not a traditional, I think, transition opportunity.
Did you feel like with the 24-second shot clock that you were rarely seeing it? I've thought that early on, and even some of these NBA games when I watch it, there's shots that they could take, there's gaps that they could exploit, but they're running some actions, and then all of a sudden it's 4 to 6 seconds left. Oh crap! Isolate or a quick ball screen in isolation, but they're near the end of the shot clock. How often did you guys even run up against it?
Not frequently at all. And I also felt like a shorter shot clock, it's just going to lead to more pace anyways. So sometimes if you're using a press to create pace, but you're playing with a 24 shot clock, you might not need to create as much pace. Again, another rule change in NCAA Division III, like it used to be, I don't know how many years ago, a 35-second shot clock. Those possessions could feel like an eternity. As they've shortened the shot clock now, pace naturally is just going to be increased in games of basketball. So we didn't go, again, we were working with the 12-second shot clock. We'd practice with the 12-second shot clock. That's something we still do at Grinnell to this day, is practice with the 12-second shot clock. Just kind of get guys in the idea of what does 12 seconds feel like? How much can be accomplished in 12 seconds? Well, if you're sprinting the floor and you are getting the ball out of the net quick and inbounding it and running, there's a lot of stuff that can happen in 12 seconds, to generate a quality look.
So 12 seconds, you're running that obviously off of makes, but once the leather touches their fingertips, either off a miss or a steal, that clock is going. And then how often do you let them play past the 12, or is it literally you guys have to get a shot up or score before that? I've played a similar game for 15 seconds early on, a lot of chaos, low shot selection or poor shot selection, maybe some buzzer beater type shots. How do your guys handle that?
Yeah, we'll do it different ways. Sometimes in practice, it will truly be, hey, if the shot clock goes off at 12 seconds, then it's going to be a turnover. Other times it's more of like a guideline, like, hey, we need to be looking to generate a good look, but we're going to let you play a little bit past it. But again, you need to be aware that that's just not acceptable pace on a regular basis. I think that the shooting percentage thing is really, really interesting. It can become a free for all in a way. And if you're saying, hey, we want to take a shot in 12 seconds, and the guys on the team don't understand what their role is, or they're all thinking that they should be having the same role because everybody gets to shoot it, then the 3-point percentage is just going to be low. And so I think the key is like structuring the lanes that people are running, or who gets the basketball in their hands, or where the first pass is kind of what we're looking for, not necessarily where it's going, are going to the guys that you want the ball in their hands, that you trust the decisions they're going to make. They're going to make shots, or they're going to break somebody down off the dribble and be able to create an inside out easy shot for somebody else within that 12-second time frame.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.